in Texas.
So here's you said stretching of the legs has begun, and hopefully everyone's recording on the left, and we're good.
Yep. Thank you to the duck.
Roping, yeah,
We're roping this week.
totally roping.
Everybody's roping. A lot of roping.
Rope me.
Now, does anyone remember why we picked this movie?
No idea. I think we talked about
Uh,
wanting to watch an
Hitchcock.
Alfred Hitchcock movie,
Okay.
but I don't remember if there was more to it than that.
Okay. And
No,
Matt
it
Jones
was,
was
yeah,
to
we wanted.
select it.
I was looking through the list of our OMIO choices, and there was like it kept coming up. Like I don't know. Did you buy like a cheapo Alfred Hitchcock collection or something? Because
No, my thing for this whole and how this gimmick show started, I throw a bunch of stuff in my if it's something I want to watch or think about watching in my watch list on Amazon Video, and then I'll every once in a while check and scroll through, and when they go to $5, I'm like automatic buy, and because I can watch it on my iPad, I can download them on iPad, watch them anywhere or on the road. So. No, it's whenever stuff drops to $5, I've picked it up, and then that's why I think we started this. I don't know, Jeremy and I might have been talking right before we roped you in, Matt. Just like, dude, I've got all these old movies that we want to watch. It's like, okay, it's got to be this old. And it's got to be a part of the $5 club, which we used to watch movies down on the east side of Indy, right?
Yep,
For
Dollar Hollow.
for the dollar holler, yeah. But no, there was also a $5 club on like Saturdays, wasn't there? I thought there was something where movies were $5. Anyway,
I mean, back in the day, like our younger listeners in Texas probably won't remember this, but you could go to a matinee for $5
yeah,
of like
Yeah.
a first run movie. Now it's
Oh,
like
geez.
maybe
no,
you get
up
it under
at
10.
on Tuesdays at Regal, you can do. I think it's $6 or $6.50, so it's not too far off. With inflation, it's close enough to $5.
I
yeah.
want to be a snob, but then I got to go to Regal without my leather
Hey, man.
reclining seats and reserved seating.
Look, for
And,
$6.50, you get
popcorn,
a big screen
shrimp,
and
and
you get some popcorn. So
That's true. But this is the problem. Wait a few weeks, and it might be on Mitchell All Access.
yeah. Which
can't-
I do have a
can't
large enough
imagine going to the movie
screen, but I love going to the movie. I still love going to the movie theater. I don't
do too.
care. It's
I
fun.
do too. It's tough.
There's something different about it.
And it's tough.
Well, you know what it is? It's when I'm at home, I'll look at this. I don't give a
Right.
shit. Like even if I'm
Oh.
interested in the movie, always will look at my phone.
Yeah.
Like unless I'm super invested in the movie, I'm looking at my phone and distracted. When I'm in a movie theater, I don't look at my phone at all. I'm like, guess what? I'm in the movie. I can't look at my phone, and I'm like paying attention to it. And
We
so
pause a
it's
lot
more of
too.
an
Like,
enjoyment.
hey, quick
Yeah.
pause. This is something Stacy and I say. We'll say quick pause. Do you remember that guy? Wasn't he in that one Law and Order episode? And then we'll like have like a 5-minute whatever. Or while we're stopped, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm gonna. Well, the child needs something. It's like there's so many pause. Like it's a running joke with our child that like an hour and a half movie is definitely going to take 2 hours and 15 minutes with all the stops. So you can't do that in the theater. But
Speaking of
I
Law
like
and
going
Order,
to the theater too. What's that?
Speaking of Law and Order, I just recently this is how old I'm now in like season 7, so I'm not like that far. There's 24 seasons, so I've still got a long way to go. It's 24 seasons, and there was like a 7 to 8 year window, if not longer, in between season 20 and season 21. But I'm like at the point now where I'm gone so far back that the lady in Grey's Anatomy, Ellen Pompeo, was playing a teenager who got her mom and her brother killed, and then got shot. So like that's how old it is that she's a teenager and now she's like the elder statesman of this Grey's Anatomy TV show. So it's so great. That show is so great. It's so much
we have
fun
a
to
running
watch.
joke where like you pull up, you see an actor in something, and then you pull up their IMDb, and if they haven't been on an episode of Law and Order before, then they haven't made it.
Yeah,
Like Tom Holland, I don't think Tom Holland's been on Law and Order. He hasn't made it yet.
Nope. Jeez, I've seen people in the old '90s that like they'll play a character in one season, and like 2 seasons later they'll play a different character
Yeah.
again. And then there's one guy, Bruce Altman. He's literally been like 7 characters on the show over the 20-something years seasons that it's been on. It's incredible. I love it. So great.
I do quick segue. I think you
Mm.
guys are gonna like where I'm going with this.
A segue from the
A
segue.
tangent.
Yeah,
From the
yeah.
Well, so there's a few varieties of Law and Order, as Rumja is aware. I don't know if you're aware, Troy. You know,
Yes.
you have your
I think Ice-T's in it, right? Or is that a different cop show? Is he on
the
NYPD
SVU.
Blue? Okay.
Yeah.
No.
you have your regular Law and Order. You have your Special Victims Unit. You have Trial by Jury, which was not a big one, but there's one in particular that made me think of the movie we selected tonight, and that is Law and Order: Criminal Intent. Now, Troy, you may not be aware what Law and Order: Criminal Intent is. Law and Order: Criminal Intent.
I definitely am not aware.
No, you'll see where I'm going with this.
I may
Law and
be
Order:
is
Criminal
correct.
Intent always starts, I think almost always starts with the crime being committed at the very start, and then it works backwards where you see will they be able to figure out, and then it becomes kind of a Sherlock Holmes sort of murder mystery.
Okay.
And I thought that as we watched tonight, Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, this movie is somewhat of a Law and Order: Criminal Intent episode.
Okay, it's a precursor to. We might have lost Matt Jones.
I don't know that it like they were like, you know what? Because of that Rope movie, I think we got a new idea for a Law and Order series. I don't know if it was that, but anyway, I had that thought. And that was my segue.
I mean, he could have lifted it. I don't know. Maybe you know with your facts if he wrote this or if it came from a play or something like that. But it's a good groundwork for just laying however many tens of, if not hundreds of episodes of something like, to your point of, okay, show the murder. Like, I can't think of the last thing I saw where like first frame of film almost is it happening. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. We'll just vamp for a second. Rumjar, are you back?
I missed the entire conversation because my headphones went out.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was really good, Rumja. I made a segue from
a Criminal Intent. I heard Criminal Intent, and and then immediately my headphones were like, so.
Done.
All you missed was I explained the premise of how Law and Order: Criminal Intent works. But tonight we're talking about Rope, 1948, Alfred Hitchcock.
1948.
Starring James, or I don't know. I think everybody calls him Jimmy Stewart. James Stewart?
James Stewart.
I was really looking forward to tonight to hearing some Jimmy Stewart impressions. And if I had to have guessed between Troy and Rumja, who would give the more accurate and relevant impression, I figured it would be Rumja. But also starring Patrick Hamilton, Arthur Lawrence. Written by numerous people. It is based on a stage play that has a number of changes made to it. In my opinion, from what I read, a lot of the changes sound like good changes, but I don't know where we want to start off. This is a difficult movie to walk through. We've done, our gimmick on the shows. We'll talk about the movie and then we'll walk through the timeline of everything that takes place. This is essentially almost a single scene, single set movie that doesn't have a lot of like action. It's exposition, it's dialogue, character development, and that's what you get. Coming in at a very brisk hour and 20 minutes, I think we all would agree. This and Chef Kiss, hour and 20-minute movies need to continue. So
yeah.
Go with it where you guys may.
I wanted to jump in immediately about the Jimmy Stewart impression. I'm only now familiar with him through picking up some of these Hitchcock movies, and he's a regular. He's in Vertigo and Rear Window, I think. And then Cary Grant is another person I never saw a movie, but now he's in a lot of the Hitchcock movies that I've been trying to catch up on because just trying to follow that director, and I've liked a lot of its stuff, not been blown away by some of it either. But anyway, so he was in A Wonderful Life. Is
It's a
that he's
Wonderful
in the
Life. Yeah.
Christmas? Okay,
It's a
I've never
Wonderful Life. Yeah.
seen that. To the, maybe
You
when I was
should-
a kid,
So this is, you should see that movie for sure.
but it's a
100%
Christmas
should see
movie.
that.
No, it's a movie that takes place at Christmas time, kind of like
Yes.
Die Hard. Does take place at Christmas, but I mean it's a powerful movie.
And it's
When people think about it, like, oh, the whole movie is just, oh, George Bailey, like, they show his life without him being alive, like as if that's the whole movie. Like, you think about like the ending part of it, because that's what everybody's like famous for. It's like, oh, theater, and every
that's
time
where
a
all the
bell
impressions
rings, an
I've
angel
seen
gets
have
his-
come
yeah,
from.
all,
Okay.
all that
Very
stuff.
good.
But like the first like hour of the movie is really good. Like it makes all the stuff at the end so impactful that you really need to see it as a whole picture. You'll appreciate it so much more.
All right. I'll give it a go. I'll put it in the $5 watch list, and when it goes to $5 I will get back to you. Circle back.
It's good. I've only
Okay.
seen it once, and like also I will say, when I saw that movie for the first time, It's a Wonderful Life, it had already been like blown up and idolized for decade. You know, like I'd been hearing about it my whole life, and so I kind of like went into it wanting to tear it down a little bit. You know,
Sure.
and I still really liked it. So
Cool.
take that. for
Yeah.
what it's worth.
Well, I just wanted to interject with that real quick because said these two actors in particular I had no familiarity with, and I like quite a bit. So I was curious to see. And oh, the other thing I wanted to say real quick: this is the first movie on here that this is the first time I've seen it. I picked it up when it went to $5, but I was like, there's probably 20 of them on there that I have not watched. So this was one of them.
Yes.
Oh, so you had not seen it? You said
I had not.
Oh,
so this is an exciting one for me, where it's like, oh yeah, I've seen it once, and I get to come into this very clean with like no, oh yeah, I've seen this 2 or 3 times, and I kind of get it. Yeah, this movie was like good, and I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, Jeremy, because you seem to really like it, and
yes.
yeah, kind of pick it apart because
Yeah.
I think there's a lot like underneath the surface that is not just out there. And no, I didn't know it was. You said 1948.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I didn't realize it was that old either. I did see on the trivia, not to steal your gimmick, but it was the first color picture by Hitchcock, I think.
Oh, I did not have that. So that's a good one. Wow. Is that a verified fact or an unverified fact?
It was on the Amazon rundown, which for this movie there was a lot because I'm guessing Alfred Hitchcock. There's a lot of trivia and stuff. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. So I have many unverified facts. I have a number of them in the front here, and then I tried to sprinkle some as we go through the timeline that are relevant to scenes. 10 total takes. So obviously this is a big point of discussion and interest, I think, with the movie. There's 10 takes in the movie. If you're really not paying attention, the movie really feels like one take. They do some sneaky like zoom in on someone's back that's black,
Yeah.
or like it's very skillfully done in my opinion, where it doesn't feel obvious, but you know that it's happening. But even if these are like with only 10 takes and it's an hour and 20, you have some like extremely long scenes where like dialogue from one person, dialogue from another person. So this person moves. There's so much room for error. Like it feels like a stage play, but just in movie format with like, I don't know. I found that to be a very impressive, like the craft and skill that went into making this is very notable, especially for the lack of effects. There's, I guess, a little bit of blood. But it's a pretty straightforward movie that's driven by the script and the dialogue and the performances and nothing else. I found that very compelling.
If it hadn't been for the fact that I saw that it had been written based off of stage play, you would have watched this and been like, "Oh, they should have made this into a play," because it is. I mean, it feels like it as you're kind of walking with, like you said, the long, uninterrupted takes, the dialogue heaviness. It feels like that. So, but it's definitely interesting. It keeps as you keep having characters kind of bouncing off things. It definitely keeps the interest level up, as opposed to kind of feeling like, oh, it's just a bunch of people talking,
Right. Yeah.
And I think to your point, Jeremy, something you were saying earlier about like how it's kind of like structured where it's one evening, you don't really cut away for like a time. There's no like, is there a time lapse? Like, oh, because like the servant, maybe not be the right word, whatever
The house, yeah.
sure maid, thank you, whatever, like is gone, but it cuts to her, I guess, for like an alternate, because I was gonna say it's almost all in the apartment, but like you see her maybe one other location, and that might be it. So there might be like one cutaway, but otherwise, like you're with them for
I
like
don't remember that.
that amount of time.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
I think it
I
was
don't remember seeing her.
she's talking to somebody, and or no, maybe no, I'm sorry, maybe she's talking to
Real quick, may I
yeah, sorry.
interject?
Yeah, please.
Our first unverified fact. This may be what you're thinking of. The theatrical trailer features footage shot specifically for the advertisement that takes place before the beginning of the movie. David, the victim, sits on a park bench, speaks with Janet before leaving to meet Brandon and Philip. Jimmy Stewart narrates the sequence, noting that it's the last time Janet and the audience would see him alive. I don't know if that's what you saw, but that's a very interesting thing too, because nowadays, if a trailer features footage that's not in the movie, people get all upset over it.
Sure.
But like to film something specifically not in the movie to prep people for the movie, I think that's a cool idea. I don't know if that's what you saw, or maybe you saw like a director's cut or something.
No, I don't know. Like I could just be misremembering. Like she's recounting a story to James Stewart about like getting kicked out of the apartment, because that's part of the plot. Like they kick her out when she didn't think that she was going to be gone.
She talks about
He
that.
said, she said that they were like, she was going to be there getting prepared for everything, but they sent her off for the rest of the afternoon, and she was supposed to go get the chicken pate from like some specific place and not come back until a time. So that's when they're going to kill David.
Okay.
And so
And we
she's
don't
telling
see her
him
out there.
about that.
Okay.
We don't see her out there, but we do talk about that. The way you tell that there's like time passage throughout this whole thing is that it comes from the outside and it's broad daylight, and then it goes in past the curtains, and then at the very end, when Jimmy Stewart opens the window and fires the gun, it's dark. It's nighttime and it's dark outside. That's the passage of time. You can kind of see it during certain shots.
I don't think I captured it as an unverified fact. This makes it extra unverified, but there was an intention made to make the movie feel like it was taking place in real time.
Sure.
Which is, I think, another cool thing, because you don't see movies attempt that very often. It's hard to make a story very compelling that takes place in real time, really. Like, how do you have character development and things unfold and all that kind of stuff?
Right. No, it's like now I want to rewatch it, because I didn't know that I was like, okay, this is 10 takes. Like, okay, so where were the cuts?
Yeah.
For those, how long were the longest? And there might be documentation of all this.
I have a fun fact that will reveal that very question.
Okay, sure.
Unverified. All right, so this is a very long unverified fact. Since the filming times were so long, everybody on the set tried their best to avoid any mistakes. At one point in the movie, during the first take scene, the camera dolly accidentally ran over and broke a cameraman's foot. But to keep filming, he was gagged and dragged off the soundstage. Again, unverified. But kind of in the pre-1950, that sounds like something they would probably do. Like, there's no Screen Actors Guild or whatever. Or maybe there is. I don't know. Another time a woman...
Unverified fact.
Right. This is the fun thing.
No Teamsters there to beat up Alfred Hitchcock for running over a cameraman's foot.
See, this is the beauty of unverified facts, is Texas listeners can write in and they can say, that's not true. And I'll say, it was unverified.
Yeah. Unverified.
Another time a woman puts her glass down, but misses the table. A stagehand had to rush up and catch it before the glass hit the ground. Both parts are used in the final cut. And as an addendum to that, filmed January 12th to February 21st, so 1948. So basically a little over a month. There are 10 shots within this movie overall. Running, I can't believe I wrote this down. 9 minutes, 34 seconds, 7 minutes, 51 seconds, 7 minutes, 18 seconds, 7 minutes, 9 seconds, 9 minutes, 59 seconds, 8 minutes, 35 seconds, 7 minutes 50 seconds, 10 minutes and 6 seconds, 10 minutes long uncut scene, 4:37 and 5:40 minutes and seconds each.
Crazy.
I mean, so like if you had just said, "Hey, there's like those things," like it's the fact that it's crafted very well, because like actors go on stage and do plays for like long periods of time, and
Sure.
they don't get breaks, right?
Right.
You
Right.
get a
That
45
is
minute
one
intermission
cut.
and 45 minutes, like, and it is what it is. But like but it is like some of the flourishes. Like there's that one scene I'm thinking of, like, okay, they have the shot where it's looking into the kitchen, and then the door like kind of flips open, and so you see him go in there and open the dresser, and then you see the next shot and he's got the rope and drops it like when the door is like flopping. I'm like, that's good timing. Like that's
Yeah.
they had to practice that, because that is very cinematic, and that you wouldn't get in like a play, you know. So like it's not just that it's long takes, because there is some impressiveness about that, but it's that it's filmed so thematically, and
Mhm.
it's very film savvy, and shot cinematically, not just long takes. So it's like the long shot in like Boogie Nights, or like the Copacabana scene in Goodfellas. It's not just impressive because, oh, it's a long unshot take. It's that they're going through all these different places, and and all these different things are going on for this long shot, and then he sits down, and then something goes. Like, it's
Right.
like, it can't just be, oh, I made a long take. Like, who gives a shit?
Well,
Right.
It looks really cool for a really long take. So
it's kind of like one of my big takeaways from Patton was like I remember discussing that, and how like I was very taken by the spectacle, and like they really had to do this. And I don't know if Rumja, I'm sure you've seen this movie. Troy, I'm not sure if you have. The Revenant.
no,
No, I
actually, never
kind
seen
of
that
want
movie.
to. I
Okay.
kind of want to
The
because
Leo
of the
Leo movie.
filmmaking.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
like The Revenant, but it famously starts with a crazy, super long action sequence, single take. And like now I'm like, well, it looks like a single take. Was
Mm-hmm.
it? And then 1917, another
That's the one
fantastic
I've
film.
heard of. Yeah.
That movie is it's not literally a single take, but they portray it similar to this movie, I guess, that it's a single take, and they use a lot of tricks. And it's very convincing and very cool in 1970. And actually, another movie that's, I think, supposed to feel like it's taking place in real time as well. But again, back to Patton, like this movie they can't fake it in 1948, and so they use
Right.
little tricks. But I think that makes it doubly impressive.
It's cool.
And for to just all to your points of how well it was shot, and now knowing that they really were that long of shots, that they got enough takes of or practice of to get them that well executed where you didn't really tell. There's a lot of camera movement in this, and back then, if a camera is breaking people's like they're big ass honking cameras, like who knows how they were,
Right.
if they were doing
Good
it
point.
handheld. There was no Rocky cam or whatever, steady cam back then. So I when I was watching it, I was kind of impressed. Like, wow, I don't know how they're doing this. I don't usually see this stuff in this old of movies, but
Yeah, good call.
cool. I'm sure there's just tons of information about this movie. So,
Well, I have additional facts for you, so I
oh,
hope you're
great,
ready. I
cool.
have many unverified facts tonight.
Well, not
I
much
thought,
goes on in the movie, so that's perfect. We've got a lot to talk about, other than just saying it's been really good so far.
well, by my timestamps will tell you that otherwise. A lot does.
Yeah, sure.
We talked a little bit about Jimmy Stewart. He doesn't show up, I think, till like around 25-30 minutes into the movie. I mean, he's kind of a late arrival for the
Yeah.
quote unquote biggest star. He was paid $300,000 for this movie, and the movie's budget was $1.5 million, which is a large portion of the budget for someone who doesn't show up for 30 minutes.
1/5 of the budget.
This is why we have you here. You're so good at math.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was interesting, though.
It is.
David's name, David, R.I.P. And I want to preface this early. Early on, I mixed up Philip and Brandon's characters sometime in my notes. So I said, Philip said this, Brandon did this. And then at some point
That's
I
fine.
realized I had them backwards. So then I went back to the beginning of my notes. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, who did what? I think I got it all fixed, but just keep me honest tonight. There may be something that Brandon says that Philip really said and vice versa.
it would have been more fun if you did not go back to like in the future. Do not go back to your notes because then we could call you out. Because Troy and I have photographic memories of who Brandon and Philip are. During
Just
this
say
whole movie.
good guy slightly, or I'm sorry, bad guy slightly not as bad guy that actually did the killing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I
That's
mean,
what I don't remember. Who actually killed him? Was it
I don't
Philip
remember.
who actually did it?
I went back and watched it. It's the I don't want to say the weaker of the two guys, not the
Yeah.
guy that's just like smoking cigarettes. It's like I don't even remember how I felt,
That's
buddy.
Philip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was the
that's Brandon. Brandon's the smoker. Philip's the nervous dude, the piano player.
Philip, I went back. He's the actual person that is has the rope. So, which I would have thought the opposite way. Would I have not to go back and watch that first couple of minutes because I was like, I don't. Again, this is the first time I've ever seen the movie. I was like, I don't remember. I need to even remember how it started. So, yeah, I need to go watch again.
So not a big unverified fun fact, but David's name is mentioned 73 times throughout the movie by most of the characters. The only character to never mention his name is Mrs. Wilson and Philip, actually, which is kind of ironic that we just talked about that. He's the one who does it, and he never actually says David's name. According to an unverified fact, someone out there could verify it, and it could be verifiably wrong. But
he's the one who felt more guilty about it, so he probably doesn't want to ever say his name. I can believe that. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wilson's a little surprising, but not
Yeah.
surprising, I guess.
This movie was available for 3 decades. Was not available for 3 decades because the rights, together with 4 other movies of the same period, were bought back by Sir Alfred Hitchcock and left as part of his legacy to his daughter Patricia Hitchcock. They've been known for a long time as the infamous 5 Lost Hitchcocks among movie buffs, then re-released in theaters around 1984 after a 30-year absence. The other movies in those 5 are Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, The Trouble with Harry, and Vertigo. I did not know that. That's very interesting.
2 of those are like
big heavy hitters, yeah.
Stone Cold classics. I mean, I think there was a point in time recently where I think Sight and Sound does their top movies of all time, and I think Vertigo surpassed Citizen Kane, which
that's always on top 5 movies of all time lists.
Yeah,
for sure.
Wow,
that's very interesting.
Speaking of that,
how does he get away with that gimmick? I know he's a war hero and all that kind of stuff. Like, his history seems very cool. I'd love to read a Jimmy Stewart biography or something, but he can't seriously talk like that.
He's just his accent. It's just he's not like not like the Simpsons thing where you say you could do a Jimmy Stewart impression and he's not like that all. He's not like that in this movie all the time.
But you hear it though. You do hear it.
He's more muted. Well, yeah.
I mean, it's there, and again, watch It's a Wonderful Life because it is alive and well throughout that movie.
Now, It's a Wonderful Life is where you get most of the Jimmy Stewart impression thing. But watch Vertigo and you see the dark side of Jimmy Stewart and it's oh,
that's a good point.
Doesn't come off as endearing.
There's nothing goofy about Vertigo, really.
No.
Yeah.
No. That's a messed up movie.
This was the only movie Jimmy Stewart made with Sir Alfred Hitchcock that he did not like. Stewart later admitted that he felt he was miscast as the professor. He makes his entrance 28 minutes into the movie. I can't speak for Jimmy Stewart. It's his opinion. I mean, he did the thing and it's him. But I thought this movie might not be what it is without his performance. I don't know. His performance makes the movie fun and intriguing. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of good characters. We'll get into all that. But I find, what's his name? Virgil or something? Rupert. Virgil's close. Rupert was my second guess.
One of those names you don't tend to hear very often anymore.
Right.
Unless you're a big Harry Potter fan with Rupert Grint.
Yep. Um,
I bet this is a role you could have had other. I mean, he's good in it, so it's not like. But I don't think it's like so quintessentially Jimmy Stewart. Like I think
it's an ensemble.
you could have had other people come in. It was funny. I was watching old Siskel and Ebert reviews, and they were talking about how there was a there was a movie that was kind of like Hitchcockian, where it's like, oh, a good guy gets caught up in some bad things, and the person that was the good guy in this movie, because it was the '80s, was Andrew McCarthy. Now, I don't know if you all are
Yeah.
very aware of Andrew McCarthy's filmography. Not a very heavy hitting actor, and I think one of them said like I was like it was a Frankenheimer movie. I forget what it was called, but they were like I just couldn't believe it was Sharon Stone and Andrew McCarthy. It's like just something like Hitchcock was smart enough to know that you have to catch Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant, like Troy was saying. Like those are heavy hitting actors, and they make it what it is. And like so, you couldn't just cast anybody in this role, but it would have to be an actor with some gravitas. But I bet you could find somebody else that could probably do the role similarly well.
Yeah.
Whereas Andrew McCarthy in this role would not be.
No,
I'll put it that way.
John Dahl, he was a big actor of the time, though, correct? I think he was. I mean, he has a pretty extensive IMDb. I think he was kind of I've heard of him outside of watching this.
Who's John Dahl?
He's Brandon actor. Yeah.
He seemed like a normal 40s, 50s type of actor,
And
but I don't remember him in anything else.
He acted late into his life. I think he passed away in 2005 or something.
Was that the bad guy or the killer bad guy?
Yeah, smoking bad guy.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
The psychopath.
Yeah.
We got Psycho, we got Piano.
Yeah. Kill people who are stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
So another point of interest. Now, I read this fun unverified fact before I watched the movie, and I wish I hadn't. Because I watched for this while I was watching it. But this movie was banned in several American cities because the implied homosexuality of Philip and Brandon. Now, I obviously picked up on that because I read this first, but I kind of wondered if would I have picked up on it had I not read it. Did you guys? I assume you didn't read this unverified fun fact in advance. Did you pick up on that?
There's
something about it, unfortunately, so I kind of saw it too. Okay.
Something only very early on, just because of the way like they're talking, and they're very, very, very close, like closer than you think normal people would talk to one another.
There's a lot of close talking in this movie, though. Sorry to interrupt.
But again, it's also one of those things where it's a period piece where I don't know what the normal, I don't want to say talking distance, but like movies, like again, it's very rare that people that have normal United States accents would use these kind of like gangster voices, but all these people's voices are very like big stage. Like you have to be heard, right? If you're projecting it, these people are all come from this. I'm guessing were stage actors at one point in their life or at the same time. So, something, but like, does it, I guess, trying to think back, like there's never anything overtly, is there?
They say that they're going places together, that they're going to leave at the end of the night together.
They're going to Connecticut.
Yeah, like there's little things like that, but there's no element of romance or
it seems like they're living in this house together. I mean, it seems like they're living in this house together with a maid, and I never quite understood that. You're right, Jeremy. Like early on, like I think the plot and just the normal separation takes over, and so you don't get as much of it. But like up until the part where people start coming to the party or Mrs. Wilson comes back, they are like, especially early on, right after they killed him, they're like really there together. And that might be a filmatic thing and a play, and part of the play too is that at the start, once they've done this thing, they're really close together, they're tightly knit, and then as the night goes, they become further and further apart. They become separated physically and emotionally, and so it's like it is kind of that undertone, which would be very smart. And maybe I'm reading into that, and I shouldn't be, or should be.
Yeah.
But that I read something about like, is Rupert also like supposed to be gay, and those two are also gay, and it's like they're kind of talking about it, and like, oh, Rupert would understand because
Oh
he's
yeah,
similar to us, and
similar
I don't
as
know.
in
Okay.
gay.
Yeah,
Okay. Like that I definitely would have not. But
I
so
didn't
so
think of that
then
at all.
I guess uh is so it was all that was written, Jeremy, or I guess I could look this up to say like so is then a murder a metaphor for something? Because
I don't.
my biggest question like before I would have even thought of that I was like what and I guess later the explanation is they just thought it would be like that should be allowed.
I
well,
think it's a
this
thrill
this
kill.
movie it's based off of a very famous murder back in like the 20s, I
Okay.
think it
Oh,
was.
great. Enlighten me, please. Okay.
Leopold and Loeb. There are these two people. They're, I
Oh, I
think,
know that case.
in the yeah
Sounds familiar.
in reality they were like 18 and 19, and they killed a 14-year-old boy. And so, and they were like, we're gonna get away with this. And so, like, I think left like a ransom note to his parents, and they were apparently like talking about it, and then eventually like they got caught. But the whole thing about it was like they thought it's kind of brought up in their like Nietzsche's Uberman, like Superman type of thing. They're like they feel like they are above certain people, and so they can try and kill people and see if they can get away with it, type of thing. um I don't know if it's like a thrill kill where it's like I'm just going to go around killing people, but it was more of like, let's see, like an intellectual or some sort of thing. And so, this isn't a perfect, it's not like we're not doing a documentary or retelling of that, but it's kind of bringing that,
Inspired by, yeah. Inspired by
inspired
true
by it, and
events,
trying. Yeah, exactly.
ripped from the
So they're trying to
headlines.
bring that into it. Um, One of
And
them
there
was
were gay
killed in
undertones to that
prison.
story too.
Well, not from so what I read about it is like one of them got
Yeah.
killed in prison, and the guy that killed them said that like one of them put the moves on him, but apparently that was like a lie, and like the guy
Mm.
who killed him was putting the moves on the other guy, and he rebuffed him, and then so he got killed. He got stabbed like 57 times or something like that. Like he got
Wow.
stabbed a ton, and he died. Um, the other one got let out of prison. And I didn't read anything about how they had that they were ended up being gay. But
Well, the good
but
thing, the nice thing about it is like they could be or they could not be, and the story
yeah,
functions the same. Like I
Sure.
like that element to it. I mean, not that it would have been bad if they were overtly gay or anything. I like that the ambiguity and the like the flow of the story doesn't necessarily need or not need that to be factual or not, if that makes sense. Um,
Sure. Yeah. No, that's an interesting point. Like I say, if I plan on watching it again, especially since it's a shorter movie, and I'll kind of look for that. And I want to look up to see if there are any other, I don't know, essays. People I'm sure have written essays on every Hitchcock movie by the
yeah,
tens, if not hundreds. So
it's
yeah,
it.
that'll be interesting because I'd be curious. Like again, what is it a metaphor for something? Is it like they found out that this was a couple, so they had to kill the person that found them out? Besides just the excitement of a kill, because that again that doesn't really add up to the one weaker character that's like, what the hell did he do? Like, he seemed to have no interest the entire time, but he's the one that did it. So I don't know. Interesting. Okay, layers upon layers.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that's one of the things that's difficult when you talk about an older movie like this. Like
Sure.
thousands upon thousands of people have had conversations on this, and I don't know what they said. I don't know what's right, what's
Right.
wrong. All I know is unverified facts.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, although this movie, we already talked about this, but although this movie lasts 1 hour and 20 minutes, it is supposed to be in real time. Would have been good if I brought this in earlier when we were talking about it. The time frame it covers is actually longer, a little more than 1 hour and 40 minutes. This is accomplished by speeding up the action. The formal dinner lasts only 20 minutes. The sun sets too quickly, and so on. The September 2002 issue of Scientific American, it would be fun to look up this article, contains a complete analysis of this technique and the effect it has on its viewers who actually feel as if they watched a 1 hour and 40-minute movie. That's, I think, the paradox.
that's what I was feeling. I was feeling it was an hour and 40. No, but what the
Like
like I said, it
at
starts in
least go to
broad
2 hours.
daylight.
Like, don't have
It starts
20
in broad
minutes.
day. It starts in broad daylight and goes to dark. Like
And they throw a party where everyone comes over and it's like, see you later.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
Come
I've
check
been
out
wanting to
my
make the
first
point.
editions, lad.
Yeah.
Have you seen a party where it
I
seems like
forgot about
everybody
those.
basically hates each other so
Yeah.
much? Like, I mean, everybody just seems to really hate each other by the end of this. I mean, even coming in, most of them probably were like, I don't know if I like any of these people. Like, we're supposed to all be friends and,
I feel
hanging
like
out in these social circles, but
you
they
could
all
have
seem to
done
hate each other.
a Seinfeld episode, like a retelling of this movie with all the characters subbed in.
Well,
Yeah.
and so I hope someone can help me with this. So the lineage of people that they invited was the ex of the ex of the fiance's parents, his fiance that they murdered, some guy that likes the girl or was her former ex. I don't. It's like who?
So-
why are they inviting all these
so-
people? Like because they're at the polo club together? Like it's just so bizarre.
So Brandon would be Jerry, Philip would be George, Kramer would be Rupert,
Okay.
and see who would David be? Who would they have killed? Like Newman? I mean, like it wouldn't really make a lot of sense.
It's like somebody.
Like
I mean, Newman. Or I'm sorry, Newman. David is clearly a character that runs in their circle that they have no respect for and they think is a dum dum. So I don't know who that would be on
Who that would
Seinfeld.
be.
It's almost George, to be honest.
And they invite his parents, or they
yeah.
invite his parents.
No,
and
his
current
dad and Mrs. Atwater. Now, his dad, Mr. Kentley, he brings Mrs. Atwater. Mrs. Kentley is always
That's right.
sick,
She's
apparently.
sick. That's right. You're right.
sick.
I'm sorry.
Not only is she sick today, she's always sick. I don't know where that fits in. I don't. Who is Mrs. Atwater? Is she related to anyone else there?
She's the Mrs. Kentley's sister, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Sister-in-law of
Sister-in-law.
And then
the
Kenneth.
dad of the person they murdered.
Kenneth is just another one of their random friends who used to date Janet, but Janet doesn't like Kenneth anymore because she likes David.
Yes.
And then
So it would be like Putty. Elaine is
Inviting
Janet.
Putty's parents.
Inviting
Okay.
Putty.
just Putty's mom.
Whoa, Matt Jones, mind blown. Very good. That is like almost a perfect graph of how to put this into character perspective.
No, that was all Jeremy. So like we could figure this out. We could figure this out. But it is just
I only know because I watched it twice. Like the first time I was like, I thought Mrs. Atwater was David's mom. Then I watched it again. I'm like, she's not his mom. I was very confused. I'm like, honestly, I was like, why is Janet there? What is she adding to this whole thing? And then the second time, I got it.
I was gonna say they need Mrs. Kentley at home because they need somebody to say David's not just at home. Because if everybody had come, they'd be like, "Oh, well, David's just at home."
And she calls
Whatever.
and she's worried because he
But
hasn't
keeps
come home
calling.
yet. Yeah.
Yep.
It's very smart. Like who is there and who isn't there to like make all the puzzle pieces fit. Troy, you were talking about watching it again.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get ahead, but I watched it twice. The first time, I know I said this in our chat, but I was enjoying it so much. I made it to about 28 minutes and I was like, I'm not taking any more notes. I just want to enjoy the movie. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then when I watched it again to take the notes, I did not mind at all because I picked up all these extra pieces. And then I was talking to Stacy about it. I'm like, you know what? We have a YouTube channel where we discuss movies. You should watch the movie with me and then you can listen to it and hear our discussion. Anyway, I think this movie.
Thanks. This discussion will be longer than the movie itself.
It really will be. We're at 43 minutes, so we have 40 minutes to resolve this.
We haven't even gotten to timestamps yet.
That's true. That's a good point. I didn't even.
But yeah, I bold take. I think this is my favorite movie we watched on OMIO so far.
Oh,
I very much like this movie a lot.
Good.
That is all the unverified fun facts I have until we
place.
get to timestamps.
I feel like there's like a lot of Quentin Tarantino. Like Quentin Tarantino, I feel like would like this movie because there's a lot of like building tension about, and you see
Yeah.
that in some of like the introduction to Inglorious Bastards is like it's just like they talk about how it just like the tension just slowly builds and builds and builds until it gets to like a breaking point, and it seems like that's kind of a lot of this movie is that it's just like a very slow boil, and then suddenly like especially when Rupert comes in, and and it's like
Sorry,
yeah, let's
Rumjo,
just
before
bring
you
over
move
our
on from the Quentin
yeah
Tarantino, like something
yeah
that's very Quentin Tarantino is, the actress from something and from something. No, I think she was just in the something. Like that
yeah.
is a very that's
That's
something
very
Quentin
true.
Tarantino would put. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking like he would be all about like that slow build, and then Rupert comes in and then just like it like ramps up because you know the people that when Brandon's there with the other folks, like they're not gonna figure out that David's dead. Doesn't matter how long they stay there. Like they're not interested in figuring out what's going on with like they're not thinking anything is going on in this thing. Whereas Rupert comes in and like immediately that's why I'm talking about like everybody hates each other. Like, yeah, let's invite our old headmaster over. And he comes in and he just like immediately is like, wow, something's not right here. It's just like, and just I don't know if it's because he knows the boys so well or what, but he's just like immediate. It's like you invited him over, like be like inviting crap. What's the dude from Knives Out? Like, um, what is that guy's name? That detective? Like, it's like inviting
Oh, the Daniel
Poirot
Craig
or whatever.
character.
Yeah, the Daniel Craig character.
Yeah,
I'm embarrassed. I
it's
can't remember his
something. It's
name.
something French. I feel like
Yeah,
Thoreau or something.
whatever it is, or it's like Agatha Christie, like we're gonna Hercule Poirot, like we're gonna invite this famous detective over to screw. It's like inviting Columbo over to be all like, "Hey, David's not here. What's up with that?" Just one more thing.
Benoit
You
Blanc,
know,
by the way.
Benoit Blanc. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, be
yeah.
like inviting him to the thing and be like, "Hey, maybe he'd appreciate the fact that we murdered somebody and tried to get away with it. He's always talking about how there are people that should probably just be able to kill other people because they suck." Which I felt they never really, Jimmy Stewart never really kind of owned up, I don't think, to the fact that, like,
Was he just
why
going
would
with
he
the
talk
flow?
about this? I don't know. Like, it is such an interesting thing to be all like having that conversation earlier and like really getting into it and like, oh yeah, there are people that deserve to die, like whatever, and then like,
I
hey man, we
totally
killed
agree.
somebody because we think he deserved to die. It's like I'm taken aback by this. How dare you twist my words into a thing? Did you not hear me at the end of that discussion? I said psych.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it.
Two
So
movies
I
that
don't know.
I noticed like definite like this movie influenced. Number one, the whole what you were just talking about, The Purge. Like what they describe is The
Oh
Purge.
yeah,
Like it's
yes it is.
totally that, and they made like 5 movies out of that.
We should make a day where people just go around killing each
We'll
other.
call it Strangulation Day or
Yeah.
Strangulation Tuesday or something. I will get to it later in the time stream.
Yes.
But the other thing, there's a vibe about the movie as well that reminds me a lot of American Psycho.
Never
And I
seen that.
don't know
Yeah.
why. Like there's like American Psycho. I didn't realize for years is supposed to be very funny, and it is very funny.
Oh
Like the
yeah.
business card sequence is so good. Like the business card sequence, I could have seen taking place in this movie, to a degree. I don't know, but
I think a part of it is that Brandon's got like his hair slicked back. He kind of looks like Patrick Bateman a little bit.
yeah,
Um, but
there's like a
the funny thing,
vapidness and like a self-absorbedness that everybody has about themselves as well.
about American Psycho is that I feel like as opposed to it's like people learning the wrong lessons about media. It's like people learning about like watching Breaking Bad and thinking Skyler's the bad guy in it instead of Walter White is the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like people watched American Psycho and they're like, yeah, we should care about shit that doesn't matter at all. And like I feel it in myself, but like when you hear him talking about have you heard?
Huey
Huey
Lewis
Lewis
in
in
the
the news?
news.
They're like, do you like Phil Collins? Like, just like the way, like, and I am just as guilty of it as anybody. So this is me pointing the
Oh
mirror up
yeah.
at myself. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
I talk about shit that does not matter one iota. I mean, we're on a podcast talking about old movies. Like, in the grand scheme of things, this is very minuscule as far as importance. But man, it's like it feels like it's just permeated the entire, like, as vapid as it was in the 80s, because that's what it was supposed to be, like a condemnation of the 80s and how vapid things are back then. It's like, man, we
Yuppies
have
in
just like
particular.
turbocharged the
Yeah.
vapidness with social media and all the other stuff going on. It is, and like I said, I am just as guilty as anybody. I love social. I probably spend too much time on social media and other things, but man, it is not something I'm proud of as a person.
Quick aside, I don't know how you feel about this. Do you know that they're remaking American Psycho?
I did not.
So it's
Who's Patrick Bateman?
it's the director of. Did you see? Oh God, what's the tennis movie with Zendaya?
Challengers.
Challengers. Did you watch that movie?
Mm-mm.
It's really good. I really liked it. So it's that director, Luca Guadagnino,
What are they do?
and Austin Butler. Austin Butler will be Patrick Bateman. I kind of think that works.
Who's Austin Butler?
He's
Was
the
he
Elvis actor.
Elvis? He was
Yeah,
the Elvis. I
he's in
never saw
everything now.
Elvis.
I just
Yeah,
don't, I don't think that movie should be remade. I think it's fine.
Is it
All
based
right.
on a book?
It is, and I've read the book, and the book is at least it's infinitesimally. That's smaller, right?
Infinitely.
It's infinitely more disturbing. Like the murder scenes are extremely explicit in
Ooh.
description. Like go on for pages, and then you get through this crazy murder scene, and then they talk about the business cards for like 15 pages. It ramps up the obsession over like minuscule weird thing, cultural references from the 80s, and then spends just as much time on like a crazy murder. It's a hard one to get through, but
Does he
Do you know when it
say,
was written?
don't just look at it, eat it?
it's like, I mean, there's stuff that's not in the movie that's in the book that's like, I mean, I don't even want to put it. We'll get demonetized, and I don't want that.
Don't want to lose those 700 views. But is it a somewhat current book then, like Fight Club or something like that, where it's become a modern classic?
Yeah,
Because if it's
1991, I
it's
just looked it up.
80s.
1991
Wow.
came out.
Okay, and the movie must have come out not within a decade of that, right? Early 2000s, maybe.
Probably, yeah, it's probably like
2000.
2001 or 2, something like that.
Wow,
No way to
cool.
know.
2003. Oh no,
Well,
it had to be earlier than that.
There's no way.
2002 or 1.
2000 on the
Wow.
dot.
Okay, wow.
And Jared Leto's in it. I don't know why that's funny
yeah.
to me. Paul Allen.
Oh yeah.
All the names are great too. All right, well then we're not talking about that. We're talking
Nope.
about Rope. Any other thoughts before we get into timestamps? Again, I want to remind the listening audience there will be some unverified fun facts during the timestamps that I did save.
Yeah, I had no frame of reference. I didn't even read the description before watching this, so I had no idea what it was going to be about. And
Nice.
for a while, I thought it was a flashback, and the actor that plays the most unknown of the three alive guys, I thought he was playing a younger Jimmy Stewart, and then they were going to flash forward to something else because he kind of looks like him and mannerisms. And I said I had no idea what this movie was about, so I was like, "Oh, there's the Jimmy Stewart," and it's going to flash. It's like, "Oh, and there's the real Jimmy Stewart." I was like, so they just kind of have an actor that kind of looks like him, but 10 or 20 years younger. So
Are you talking about the actor that plays Philip?
is the third wheel guy? Yeah,
He's nervous the whole time and plays piano.
yeah. No, the blonde hair guy that is like
Kenneth.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was like I said, it was fun for me having no like really going in blind to a movie of like what I have no idea what this is about. Very exciting. It was fun. Very fun. A fun movie watching experience. And I enjoyed the movie too.
Rumja, any other thoughts? We don't have to do timestamps.
I was say I don't think this is the best movie we've seen, but I've enjoyed it. I don't think it's my favorite Hitchcock. I don't. I don't really find. Oh, it's one of those things. I don't. I've watched Columbo episodes, and I appreciate. It feels like a Columbo episode a little bit because you know who did the murder, and
Okay.
you're just kind of waiting to see what at by the
Will they
end
get caught or not?
Columbo will tell you. Yeah, well, you know they're going to get caught. But in this movie, you don't know. In this movie, you don't know. But like a Columbo episode, you do know.
Oh,
Now
right,
that
right.
I've seen it, like I know they're going to get caught. Um, but but I don't find that as interesting. Like I don't like movies or things where I know who the bad guy is already. I kind of like to have a little bit of mystery as I'm going along and discovering things with the person who's supposed to be like the protagonist that's solving the mystery. I don't find it as interesting to watch people trying to get away with it and somebody trying to figure it out at the same time and being like and the back and forth between them.
So
um
you don't like SVU unit, uh,
CI, criminal
CI,
intent.
CIS,
is that what CI and you
SVU.
know who did it in
Yeah, it
criminal
always
intent?
starts with the crime at this. It's the Vincent D'Onofrio one. It's they
Yeah,
always
I
start
never.
with the crime being committed, and then it works backwards. But
Okay.
he's like, I mean, he's clearly like autistic or something, like on the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's gonna figure it out. He always does.
It would be interesting to me, and this maybe is a thing about this. It'd be interesting to me if it's like, here's the murder, like you show the murder at the beginning, and even if you saw who it was, okay. But if like the mystery was trying to figure out why,
Mhm.
then that might be something that kind of keeps you into it because there's a little bit of a mystery. It's like, oh, well, this is going on. In this one, right off the bat, it's like, well, we just kind of killed him because we thought we were better than him. Like it's not like they hide that for a long period of time. They
Yeah.
already talk about how they kind of do that. So it takes a little bit of the enjoyment away from me. So I mean, it's just like there are certain movies that I'm just not going to really like get into, and
Sure.
that's. I still thought this was like it's well acted. I thought it was pretty cool. Like I thought Jimmy Stewart was really good in it. Um, it was kind of interesting the things he was picking up on that was like because he knows them and so he's picking up maybe some imperceptible things. But as far as like overall Hitchcocks, I think there are ones that I enjoy better, clearly. But like I like yeah. So I mean it was a good movie. So but
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you were so enthralled with it. I'm glad that you liked it so
Yeah,
much. That's really cool.
it's funny because I've seen other, and like it kind of like, now that I've watched this and I have the appreciation for this, I kind of want to go back and watch, the quote unquote classics like North by Northwest or Vertigo or whatever, because it's like there's a level of craft to this that I appreciate so much. So like, I'll get to it in the timestamps, but there's, I think, 3 or 4 scenes in this where the whole movie, the camera follows the dialogue and who's talking. It always follows. It's very traditional in that sense. But there's like 3 or 4 scenes in the whole movie where the camera shows something else off of who's speaking. And one of the scene probably that sold the whole movie for me was the scene when Mrs. Wilson is taking down the chest, and it's just focused on the chest, and the dialogue's happening over here, and what, and again, this is, I'm not saying counterpoint to what you were saying, Rumja, but like, we know that the body is in there, and if we hadn't seen the murder, then this whole thing doesn't work. The movie would be told differently, of course, but like, that's the peak tense scene of like what's going to happen with this chest, and they spend so much stupid time talking about this chest. Why are you serving food off the chest? I mean, if I rolled out a chest and had a dinner party, you guys would be like, why do you have this chest out here tonight? But it seemed
I
like that
would
chest
never
is there
think
all the time.
twice about
I wouldn't notice. I'd be like, yeah,
Right.
your
Well,
maid might.
I better look and see if
it.
there's a dead body in there.
So that's the thing. I will say for the movie that this is, it's extremely well made. Like you're talking about that scene, the scene where I know he cracked that glass. That's another one of those
Mhm.
scenes where like
Oh,
he's not talking and he
Yeah.
cracked the glass in his hand. And I'm like, oh yeah, there you go. Like
Yeah.
that's exciting stuff. But like, there are movies that I could admire for their craft, and I can say that it's well done, it's well acted, it's pretty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some of the things are really interesting. It's just not gonna interest me on the whole. So
Right,
compared to
right.
other things that are in a similar genre, right? So
Yeah. There's definitely better Hitchcock movies for sure. Like, there's a reason why until you picked this, I had never heard of it. I did
yeah,
not know this movie at all, and so I think there's a part of me, like, it goes back to my, I mean, maybe a top 3 movie viewing experience of all time. Troy and I going to see Mad Max Fury Road, and
Absolutely one of the
and
top. Yeah.
and thinking like, well, it's gonna be fine. And then like, what? That was the movie? Like, I don't know, we just thought we were gonna have a good night on a, Friday or Saturday night, go and see something brainless, and like I was kind of blown away by it. So I think I didn't really have hardly any expectations for this going into it. Similar to that.
You talked about wanting to go back and see like North by Northwest and some of the other ones. I want to see some of his ones that I want to now see more of the ones that I've never seen,
Well,
because I may
yeah.
like them, I may not like them. Like I want to see
Have you ever seen
Saboteur.
Strangers on a Train?
I've never seen Strangers on a Train.
Super cool movie.
And
Super cool movie.
that's
That's
what's
on
his face
here.
is in that too, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart, I think he's in
I
that.
don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Well, somebody that's in this movie is in that movie, because I know I saw
Okay.
the little crossover. Whatever.
Maybe it's one of the leads in this. I don't know. I saw that one within the past year or two. But
That's a
same
great
thing. Went in knowing absolutely nothing about it, and I was like, "Whoa, what a cool concept!" And
right.
I think they trade murders in that one, or that's what's the premise of it.
It's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think that's like that hits the nail on the head though. Is like everyone knows North by Northwest is good and Vertigo is good and whatnot, but like
Psycho.
It's Psycho, yeah. But like when you see the random movie that you didn't expect much of, you're like, okay, now I need to watch every one of his movies, because if I don't know, maybe this is not the hidden gem that I think it is. Maybe it's like very well known by cinephiles. I don't know, but I had never heard of it. So
I've heard of Rope, but I had no idea what it was about until we started to watch. Until we chose to watch it. So
yeah,
I like Jimmy Stewart enough. I was like, yeah, it's Jimmy Stewart. It says
Jimmy
Alfred
Stewart.
Hitchcock with Jimmy Stewart. Oh, it's very interesting. Never seen this movie.
I can't do
check it out.
There's like a lot of like
it's very interesting.
It's kind of like what a flanger pedal does, where it like modulates the voice, the EQ up and down at random pace. That's what Jimmy Stewart does with his voice. Well, we're going to go around this, and then we're going to go down to this.
Very good. Very accurate. That was actually very good. Very, very good.
Not Rumja does it better.
I don't know. I was having trouble understanding him.
Flanger.
Yeah, I mean, your impression was kind of how he was really talking in this, where it's like I had a hard time following him. I want to now. I didn't get to watch it with headphones in, which has been my latest obsession. Not only subtitles but also headphones. Like, oh my gosh, you hear so much more of everything. But that's So I'd like to do that. So yeah, his gimmick was a little hard to hear sometimes, compared to the slick talking gangster who I could hear all the time, and he was always smoking a cigarette. I did want to bring this up while I'm thinking about it. This movie definitely made me want to smoke a cigarette, because everyone's smoking, everyone's got cigarette cases, and it looks really cool. They're tap, tap, tap. Yeah, buddy.
So that was the one thing that like really stuck out to me as like the homosexual like subtones was they kill the guy and they're both there together, and the guy immediately pulls out a cigarette and start smoking it as if they're like, we just had sex, like, all right, yeah, we just did this. And he's like, yeah, I'm feeling good about it. And the other one's like, oh, I don't feel very good. So that was the one thing I saw that and I was like, oh, there's the undertones that I should have recognized.
I can certainly read that too. I would love to hear from I don't know, whoever wrote it, like to say like, yes, that was, or this is what I was really meaning. Because not, again, sorry to tangent on something else, but there was some recent Red Letter Media review of what the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and I guess the second Nightmare on Elm Street has like a lot of homosexual undertones or what have you. And I had no idea. I haven't seen that movie for 20 or 30 years, so I'd have been too young to know. But that's like a historical movie of like, it doesn't come right out and say it, but it's all kind of there. So, but there's now record of people talking about it, I guess. So, yeah, very interesting indeed. But yeah, I really wanted a cigarette.
Yeah. And Rupert's cigarette case that he forgot, that thing's cool. Like,
Yeah,
I don't have a need for that. I kind of want it though.
you have to start wearing
super long.
sport coats that you have like
Jacket,
huge
yeah.
indoor pockets.
Well, that's
you know what I mean.
so
Inside
that's another
pockets.
thing too. I don't think I had this anywhere in my notes, but just like there was a time where like you got on an airplane and you wore your suit and everything was prim and proper, and you go to a dinner party and you're dressed like these people. And
These people.
now I wear a hooded Colts sweatshirt like anywhere I possibly can with pajama pants. I don't know. It's kind of it harkens back to a different time, you could say. Because I mean, I remember going to a
Batman the
party at
Animated
your.
Series. That's why Batman the Animated Series is set in like the 1930s and 40s because everybody's wearing suit and everybody looks super sharp.
Yeah,
That's just the way it is, man.
it's not cool to
It was
see
a
Batman kick ass in sweatpants.
It's
And
not.
what are the Jordans called? Whatever the Jordans that all the kids wear.
Oh yeah, the flights or the
Air
dunks.
Jordans.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
I had a T-Rex fight at your a party at your house, Troy, before you moved out west. Do you remember the T-Rex fight in your kitchen?
chicken fights
Chicken fights. That's
with
it.
John Saxon.
Chicken
I
fight.
remember.
Oh god.
The T-Rex fight. We got there. All right.
Oh my god.
Troy's still not happy about it. I can see it on his face.
No, I mean, I wish I wouldn't have probably drank as much as I did that night because it was a big. I mean, for my recollection, everyone had a really good time. No one got injured or got overly sick or did something stupid, like so no, I mean the minor amount of damage, like I couldn't care less about that. It's just like, wow, I did not know that at our age we still had that kind of like insane rowdiness. Like that was
We don't have it anymore. That's for
no,
sure.
that was. I mean, so far as I can remember, I mean, Jeremy and I have had some fun times out here, but that's very like one kind of like people like just hanging out. Usually
That was 10 years ago, at least, right?
here, yeah, like 2010,
I mean,
10,
we
10
could have
11,
been
12.
in our 20s still.
No.
Could have been 12 years ago. Just saying.
2012.
Oh, is that the year that the party was?
Oh no, I'm saying I guess it would.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
In 2012
the time is starting to go. Like, when you say 15 years ago, you're like, that couldn't have been 15 years ago, and you're like, oh yeah, it was actually 17.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
mean,
noticing that more and more in my life.
I think that would be that long ago. I just didn't realize that we were that young.
Yeah.
That
the 15th anniversary of the United States of Space, Troy.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I would have thought that was longer ago than that. Like I don't remember doing those things at all. But
Yeah.
But anyway, I was surprised at the rowdy. What I was going with that is that was the last any sort of rowdiness party where it's like, why were we ever that? Not that night, but any night of like, just I mean, obviously alcohol, but it's like humans are weird. Because didn't the who just won the Super Bowl? The Philadelphia. And didn't they do like a riot in the city like we did in Bloomington when
they tried to destroy their city?
Yeah,
It's Philadelphia for you.
It's everybody. Like we did it at IU, if you remember, Jeremy. It was my freshman year, I think. But we went to the championship, lost, and we went out down to Kirkwood, and like people were tearing shit down. We got tear gassed.
I mean, I was a week into my college career. I was a freshman. I came into town, got seated in my dorm. They fired Bobby Knight, and then everyone set shit on fire and burning effigies of the college and I'm like, is this what college is like? I guess this is what college is like. Is this going to happen every weekend?
And that's a bunch of innocent
Hoosiers. And then 9/11 happened, and we and everything got a little more serious.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
No. It's a good point. I mean, we started there from the dapper dressing of the.
Thank you. I was like,
what
the hell? Where did we get this from?
And I enjoy that about these old movies too, because it's like it's not just that I'm wearing like my fancy suit with my cigarette case. It's like, and then and then I'm And then we, oh, Janet, where are you going? And it's like they don't even talk like people right now
Blues
either.
with the hats and
Yeah.
the minks and such. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's
I
a
see.
hat closet, hat room. Everyone, that's how they caught him. Everyone has their hat. You can't go out without your hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Janet looked like she was 35 in this, and I'll bet she's like 23 or something. I don't know. Joan Crawford.
Oh, just because she's dressed that way.
Right, because
Yeah.
that I'm not used
But
to
she's dressed so
seeing.
more old. Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
really not even used to seeing women or men dressed like this. Maybe at a wedding, even if you go to a wedding now, it's more casual than they're dressed in this movie. Most weddings.
Informal. Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to get to some timestamps because we are at
Let's-
1
let's-
hour 9 minutes.
Wow.
Let us stamp some
Sure.
time.
All right. So I hopefully these make sense. I noticed on our last discussion, I like took notes and I was like, this will make sense. And then I go back and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So you guys might have to bail me out, but I tried to do a better job. I even reread my original notes on my second viewing.
Okay. Paint the picture for me. My
all
second
right.
time viewing right now.
Early movie credits. Bring this back. I just an early comment. We have the shot outside the building, people walking around. I believe Alfred Hitchcock is one of the people walking on the
Okay.
street.
I should have looked. He has a cameo. I meant to look for that and I did not. So
just love the look of that opening and then getting a bunch of credits. I don't know. I like everybody wants to get out of the movie theater when it's over or turn the movie off immediately. I don't think anybody watches any credits anymore unless it's a Marvel movie and they're hoping for a post-credit thing. I like the early movie credits. And I like it when a movie does what this does and presents it in a cool way. Minute 242. Initial strangulation. Man is killed and two men dispose of body in, I said case, but trunk is probably more appropriate. Philip is told we don't have much time. Curtains open with an awesome but obviously fake New York skyline. But it kind of looks good, though. There's like smoke.
Yep.
Yeah,
There
I was
is.
gonna say that's the one thing that kind of threw me off a little bit is that there's that one stack that's got smoke coming out of it. I'm like,
Well
I know
done.
it's a matte painting, but how is that smoke happening?
Some sort of diorama. Yeah.
We could have done it in the sunlight. Again, sometimes I'll try to quote things. I don't know if I remember what that is.
He doesn't want him to turn the lights on because it's one of those. This is something I'm finally coming to terms with. Well, no. Just well, I guess sure for that too. Now that we're thinking about it, or now that I'm thinking about it that way, but you can't shoot something that's supposed to be in the dark because then you can't see what's going on. So it's clearly not dark, but it's supposed to be dark because he turns something on. He's like, turn the lights off. I'm like, it's already light. What are you doing?
Yeah. Good call.
Because didn't we talk one of these movies not too long ago? It was like some people shooting, day for night, and it doesn't really work. And
it was the Fistful of Dollars.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
What is this? This is not in the middle of the night.
They just painted the film strip blue.
Right. So
Blue
anyway,
night,
we got on. Oh, because you asked what that statement meant. I was like, that's
that's
what it was about.
Takes Philip's gloves off. It's time for an unverified fact. Screenwriter Arthur Lawrence claimed that originally Sir Alfred Hitchcock assured him the film wouldn't show the opening murder, therefore creating doubt as to whether the two leading characters actually committed the murder, which I think would be a very different movie if we didn't see that. But obviously, Alfred Hitchcock said, "No, I'm not doing that," and I did it my own way. Thought that was a very interesting unverified fact.
Yeah. So they would just start out with the body in the trunk, and they would talk about it.
Or I don't know. Maybe there's nothing to do with the body. That's a good point. Like it's just already in the trunk, and they're getting ready for their party. I don't know.
Weird. Okay, very interesting.
This is the part where Mrs. Wilson comes in, and so they're not being so blatantly obvious about all the stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because at some point in time, they talk about like you need to calm down. Like those things would become more of like it maybe pique your interest as to why did they keep talking about needing to calm down, and where is this David guy? Who is this David guy they keep talking about?
Yeah,
I don't know. That could be an interesting That would be that's an interesting thought experiment as to how you could adapt this into where you don't know that they've killed him from the start. Might make it more interesting for someone like me, because I mean, that's like the weakness of that. But who knows? I don't know. It could also not work as well.
I hate to break up the set of Crystal. I thought that was a funny line. David Kenny had his last drink. Philip is troubled by the murder of the other guy, and the other guy. At this point, I don't know who's who. That'd be Brandon. Is very nonchalant about it. They laugh that the fact that he's a Harvard undergrad might make it justifiable homicide. I thought that was hilarious.
They must be Yaleys. Are they Yaleys, Matt Jones? Is that how that? Did the Yaleys hate the Harvards?
Beats me. I'm not an Ivy Leaguer. SEC baby.
Wow.
Phil, minute 6:52. Philip suggests Brandon would have been a better victim, or it could have been Brandon suggesting Philip was a better victim. It's up to you guys to guess that one. David is the victim, though. Brandon wants to celebrate while Philip is bummed. I do have that right.
That's correct.
Minute 8. We've killed for the sake of danger and for the sake of killing. We're alive. I say at this point, I wrote it's established that this was a thrill kill, but I know we discussed the other potential motivations or whatnot.
It kind of is.
Minute 9:30. Should we still have the party? It's like hanging the picture and not showing it. I like that line a lot. They discuss the upcoming dinner party and the guests in attendance. Minute 11. Brandon, you've gone too far. Setting the candelabras on the chest. Mrs. Wilson will be back soon. I said the cleaning lady, ? Because we haven't met her yet. Brandon wants to set out the books. The phone rings. Mrs. Wilson rings. And I say Mrs. Wilson rings, meaning I'm trying to be old-timey in my notes. She rings to come to the door. Phyllis is nervous throughout. Philip is nervous throughout, not Phyllis. Philip shouts for Brandon after seeing the rope. Minute 13:20, we both agreed we couldn't commit the crime of making a mistake. The doorbell rings. Mrs. Wilson shows up with the pate. The pate, a very big part of this movie, a bigger part than I was expecting. I don't know that it really ever mattered, though.
I've got a quick question. So I didn't even think about this until you just mentioned it. For whatever reason, I thought that the logic of the movie was that they're moving the stuff onto the casket, so they try to hide it. But you're saying they moved it there to try to make it even more thrilling. Like, we are going to be serving off of that. So it's even more like they could see it at any moment. No one's going to look in this, because they could have just put other stuff on top of it to block people. Or, okay. That makes more sense to me now. As far as when you said thrill kill, I guess I haven't heard of that terminology or that phrase, but that makes sense. Like doing it just for the excitement of it, I guess.
Fun fact, first time I ever heard that term. Rumjo will know this.
My Life with Thrill Kill Cult?
Huh? The game. Is that what you... Yeah. A famously canceled, I think it was a PS1 game.
Called Thrill Kill.
It was supposed to be almost like a third person. It almost looks a little isometric fighting game with they were trying to outdo Mortal Kombat. And it was fully done. There's gameplay of it, and it never released. And it was called Thrill Kill.
Okay.
Or did it? They eventually used that as a basis for the Wu-Tang Shaolin fighting game, I believe. Yes, I believe that's correct.
They just reskinned it or something?
They reskinned it, and they made it a Wu-Tang themed thing, if I remember right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Wu-Tang Clan to come up tonight. There we go. Okay, so Mrs. Wilson shows up with the pate, complains about the traffic and the trouble. They explain why they're setting up on the trunk where Mr. Kentley's body is hidden. I called him Mr. Kentley, not knowing at this point there would be more Kentleys showing up. So they want to make it the focal point where they spend time. Minute 15, concerns over hiding the rope from Philip. Brandon walks away, twirling the rope. Mrs. Wilson comes in. Brandon walks by, puts the rope in a drawer. Mr. Cadell? Who's Mr. Cadell? Mr. Cadell? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Cadell is coming. Apparently, Mrs. Wilson is smitten. Philip gets worried by this news. Yeah, that's Rupert.
Yeah,
Rupert Cadell. Philip gets worried by this news. Concerns are brought up by Philip that Mr. Cadell could be a problem. Mrs. Wilson advised that Philip needs to make sure he gets in on the pate. Guests arrive. Now the fun begins. I believe Brandon says that. That sounds like something Brandon would say, right?
The bad guy.
Yeah. 18 minutes. Kenneth. Is it Kenneth? Kenneth arrives.
It's the frequency.
Why is it that I'm too early for parties? Probably because you're always on time. Great line. That's a great line.
Was ever heard of Mega 64?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had this like wrestling thing, skit that they did, and one of their persons that they had was a guy with like a giant clock on him. He was fashionably on time. That was his name, and so I always like to say, "I'm fashionably on time." So that's what this guy is.
That's good. Speaking of time, 3 minutes, 38 seconds remaining. Canada and USA tied in the third period.
Must go to shootout though, right?
I don't know.
For
whoever loses gets more tariffs applied.
Well, that's what I did. Again, I first heard about this tonight, right before we started, and I was like, "Well, what's going on?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I guess there is talk about Canada becoming the 51st state." Like that might piss them off. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that could rile up an entire nation of peoples to want to boo." So
yeah, they booed the national anthem. I
Dude,
mean, I would say it's not good to boo other countries' national anthems, but there is context for why they.
Will say, if somehow Canada becomes part of the U.S., can we take their national anthem? Because their national anthem is so much better than our national anthem. Oh, Canada!
I don't know anything after the opening line.
Premium national.
Our home away from home.
Our
You're
home
a great
land.
home, and you've got maple syrup and hockey. I actually love Canada, dude. Oh man, Vancouver. I could live in Vancouver.
No, you can't. It's too expensive.
That's true. I bet Vancouver's like one of the most
people have bought up real estate, and then they don't live there because they need to put their money somewhere, and so they just bought up Vancouver real estate.
I think in Vancouver, like one of the most expensive places to live, like in the world now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did you guys know Philip is going to be driven up to Brandon's mother's place after the party?
That's what I heard.
I wrote more evidence that they may be in a relationship. 19 minutes. The party is really for Mr. Kentley. Oh, David's father says Mr. Kent. Mr. Kent is nervous about Janet coming. And I keep calling him Mr. Kent. That's Kenneth. Wait, it's not. Wait, it's not Kenneth Kentley, is it?
Kent. It's not Kent. No. David Kentley and Kenneth, whatever his last name is.
I think I got confused there. All right.
Well, I got to look it up.
It doesn't matter. 20 minutes. Janet arrives, is concerned about her hair, tells Brandon that he smells nice. What's this rumor of town hall? Mr. Kent takes Janet's attention. Again, who's Mr. Kent? Is that Mr. Kentley or is that Kenneth?
I think
Kenneth Lawrence. Kenneth Lawrence is his name. Mr. Kentley is Mr. Kentley. It's the old dude.
Is the murder victim's father.
Yeah.
That's there with his sister-in-law of his sick wife.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Kenneth takes Janet's attention. How would you feel about Champagne? Hello, Champagne. That was a funny line. She's very concerned about being funny. Janet writes for Allure. Still writing for the column that she doesn't seem to love. Unverified fact time, everyone.
Oh, no.
At the 21-minute, 36-second mark, the character of Janet is asked about her new job. She says she's writing the same dreary column, How to Keep the Body Beautiful, for an untidy little magazine known as Allure, which at the time was a fictional magazine. However, 43 years later, in 1991, a magazine named Allure debuted, which focused on fashion, beauty, and women's health. And I believe that magazine is still in print today. So when she said it in the movie, I was aware of that magazine. And I thought, wow, it's that old. And it's funny that it's a made-up magazine in the movie.
Yeah, that's funny. I did not know that.
Common enough word, but you think they referencing that movie?
I don't know. The founder of Allure magazine is just a huge fan of rope.
Could be.
Could be.
Allure employees, leave a comment. Hit that bell. All right. Janet calls Brandon away about a painting in the foyer. There's no painting. I could strangle you. Why'd you invite Kenneth? I'm practically engaged to his best friend David. All right. So now we know why Janet's there. She's engaged to the dead man. After me came Kenneth, then David. 22 minutes. Rupert is coming.
Which is implying that he dated her, right?
Kenneth dated.
Yeah, her. Kenneth dated her before David did, and he still likes her, and he has zero chance because she clearly does not. She likes David,
right? But didn't the Superbad also imply that he dated her? No,
maybe
they were just friends. I don't know. They kept calling each other chum.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought that Kenneth was the one that broke it off with her. We discover that he's the one that broke it off with her. Later on.
I don't know. Maybe. You could be right. Again, my notes, very a lot of unverifiable facts in these notes. We are at 22 minutes. Rupert is coming. Stories of Rupert are shared. He's a publisher. He only publishes movies he likes. Rupert says the strangest things. He thinks a murder is a crime for most men, but a privilege for some men, they say. 23 minutes. Mr. Kentley has showed up with his sister-in-law, Mrs. Atwater. He's been sick recently. Mrs. Kentley is still sick. Mrs. Atwater is a wild character. She is, she's hilarious. Also a very close talker. There were a couple scenes where she's talking to people and I'm just like, this is making me uncomfortable and this is not real. Mrs. Atwater.
Different time. It was a different time. People got chummy.
Well, I wondered also, is it like, oh, it's a small set, so like get a little closer together and then we can have the camera tighter. I don't know. Just
could be.
Okay. Mrs. Atwater mistakes Kenneth for David, and Brandon breaks his glass in his hand. The first instance, I think, Troy, you alluded to earlier, where the camera cuts away from the dialogue, or Rumja, somebody said.
Yes. Yep. He did. Yep. I forgot the cutaway, but you're right. Yeah.
26 minutes. Mr. Kentley comment again. This is where it gets fun because am I talking about Mr. Kentley or am I talking about Kenneth at this point? I think I have it right. Mr. Kentley comments that he wishes David was more like Philip. 20 minutes. Mrs. Kentley reads, Mrs. Kentley is not there. So that note is, I'm going to guess that is Mrs. Atwater. Mrs. Atwater reads, I like how I have to fix this note, even though no one will ever see this. Mrs. Atwater reads Philip's palms, says his hands will bring him great fame. Shortly after is playing piano. That's a really cool scene. Foreshadowing. Or pre-shadowing. Is it pre-shadowing? He already strangled.
Post-shadowing?
Post-shadowing.
28:45.
We call that dramatic irony, Jeremy. That's where the audience knows something that to the people saying it would not be ironic, but it is ironic for the audience.
Post-shadowing is my new hardcore band name, actually.
Yeah, I was going to
say. 28:45. Jimmy Stewart arrives. Accent, voice is unmistakable. In parentheses, Rupert Cadell. That's for me to help me. All the characters' names.
Remember.
Rupert is introduced and stops the party. Everybody is taken by him. He's very matter of fact in the way he speaks and startles people. He says things. That's one of my favorite things about his character is that he kind of says what's on his mind and makes people uncomfortable, and he doesn't care if he makes them uncomfortable. Rupert to Philip.
He's that person in the movies where you're like, ha, got him. But if he was like in your friend group, he'd be like, God, not this asshole. He just doesn't have a filter, and like it's charming in certain situations. But God, man, that would get annoying fast.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of makes sense that the younger people would look up to that and be all like, "Oh man, he can just be so carefree and doing that." But like, if you were his age, you'd be like, "Nah, man, this ain't
Stop.
Chief."
Who keeps inviting Rupert?
Yeah. Like,
Isn't that what the old
Chief,
guy
you
says? He's
know,
like, stop harshing my mellow, bro.
yeah, it's like I don't really like your
Get my
talk.
Oh
first
yeah,
It's
you're
edition.
kind of
right.
sounding kind of Hitlerish. So I think he said, and it's like, "Oh no, it's different."
Yeah.
That was your best one yet. All right, Rupert to Philip. You always did stutter when you were excited when he gets shaky about the
Mhm.
reason for the party, and then he's let's just
That
see
was
the first
that was
editions of
Brandon.
this.
That was Brandon. He said that to Brandon.
Oh, okay,
Because Brandon was the one who was kind of getting a little
okay.
excited that Rupert was there, and
All
he
right.
mentioned that to Brandon.
I missed one of my corrections apparently, or I got confused. Both are entirely possible. 30 minutes,
Philip
Rupert
sure as hell
questions.
did not want to talk to Rupert. Phil did not want to talk to anybody,
Oh, that's
let
true.
alone Rupert especially.
He just wanted to
So
play his piano and get some drinks.
Yeah, get some more
Give me
champagne.
some more drinks. 30 minutes, Rupert questions why they are eating on the chest, adds that Brandon always told stories in grade school involving chess. A story is told that Brandon shared before of a girl who was locked in the chest and died. Not good
Ooh.
timing for their murder of the person that's in the chest. And also, I think that lends credence to somebody said earlier about like this is something that Brandon always wanted to do. Like one of you guys said something about it not necessarily being a thrill kill, but like a I don't know, maybe I'm
No, you're right. Like I was not thinking of that at all, but they put it in there specifically and then put the stuff on top of it specifically to increase the drama, not decrease it,
right.
which it said at least my brain thought initially like they're doing this so no one will ever look in there because people would normally look in there, but it's like no, it's just some old piece of furniture. He was trying to make it more exciting now that you guys are talking about like what this concept was. Thought I could
Yeah.
get so yeah.
32 minutes, Mrs. Atwater and Janet talk about an actor and move on to a new Bergman film called Something of the Something. This becomes a recurring gag throughout, which I enjoyed. Unverified fact. The Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman film, which Janet Walker and Mrs. Atwater are struggling to remember the title for, is Notorious from 1946, also directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
I'll have to look for that one.
I
I'll
thought
probably
that
look
was
for it.
that was some that's some
I didn't know
that's some
that.
Alfred Hitchcock like
Yeah.
meta breaking the little bit of meta there.
Yeah. Super clever. Note that Mrs. Atwater is a close talker. I think I already brought that up. Mr. Kentley is still concerned that David has not showed. Philip isn't hungry. Nervously says, "I don't eat." I thought that was a very funny line. Like if that's like the kind of like I'm super guilty and have done something wrong. Like I don't eat chicken, but you just stop at I don't eat. Janet questions why. Brandon explains why Philip doesn't eat. He tells a story about Brandon strangling chickens, and Philip gets very upset.
Brandon choking the chicken.
Yeah.
Right. No, see, when you asked earlier, like that there was reported about this undertone thing. That's I think when I was like, where's this like weird thing that came up between them, and it was all about like strangulation of a chicken, which that was kind of like more I guess phallic or like
Choking
okay,
the chicken.
yeah,
As it
interesting.
were.
Is that where Beavis and Butthead got it from?
34 minutes. Camera focuses on Rupert. I think this is the first time, at least I wrote it down. I know you brought up the glass scene as well, but 34 minutes. Camera focuses on Rupert starting to form suspicions. One of the only scenes the camera doesn't follow the speaker, but rather the observer. Happens later. Rupert engages with the group and says, "Another moment, you guys would have been strangling each other." I see what you did there, Rupert. Rupert proposes the purge and how it would solve societal problems, like standing in line for theater tickets. The something with what's her name? This is Atwater. She just doesn't. She can't be bothered. They go through who is expendable, hotel workers, death by slow torture, bird lovers, small children, and tap dancers. But that was I don't know what those have in common, but 3639, murder is and should be an art. Should be reserved for superior individuals. Brandon chimes in, and the victims whose lives are unimportant anyway. 37, Rupert says we'll have cut the throat week and other examples of how we could have kill people day. Mr. Kentley is offended by the conversation. Rupert, I'm a very serious fella. I don't remember what that's in reference. I think I like the way they say fella. Subtitles say fellow, but they say fella.
Fella.
I think Mr. Kentley was like, you clearly are joking about this, and he's like, no, I'm very serious, fella.
I wish I could like share my notes with you, so anytime it's something Rupert says, Rumja has to read it. 38 minutes. Rupert has started baiting Philip into telling on himself. Philip tries to sell Mr. Kentley on why his culturally. Now, this is where I think I got the names mixed up. Rupert is starting to bait Brandon into telling on himself during the sequence where they go on after the purge and all that stuff. Brandon tries to sell Mr. Kentley on why he's culturally superior and equipped to murder. Mr. Kentley brings up Hitler. Brandon says he would hang all the incompetents and fools. Mr. Kentley pushes back. Rupert doesn't want that smoke. This is where Rupert says, I don't want to be a party to this exactly. Oh, yeah. First editions. That's everybody. Oh, let's go look at the first editions.
We've talked about murdering people. Maybe we should have look at these books.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good moment, too, because I know, like, I mean, I haven't had this exact same party or anything, but like everybody's been in that sequence where there's a group setting and something awkward happens and someone tries to abruptly change the subject back to what we were supposed to be doing. I thought that captured it well. 39 minutes. Rupert asks Brandon, aren't you planning to do away with any inferiors? Brandon understands he went overboard and tries to walk back and bring it back to the books. Poor Kenneth getting set up with Janet, and Janet isn't having it. Janet laments the fallout from her prior relationship and dividing the bros. She's in love with David. Brandon told Janet that she has a shot now with David out of the picture. That came up like early on. Rupert is noticing how convenient it is that David is not present. 45 minutes. Mrs. Wilson shares with Rupert that Philip and Brandon were in a hurry to clean up and encourage her to take the afternoon off. When she returned, they were in a little bit of a tiff. I said, it's so funny that everyone thinks serving off the chest is awkward. I was personally thinking that the chest seems very at place in the room personally, but Brandon tries to run cover. Rupert is suspicious. 46 minutes. Philip is playing piano and is confronted by Rupert. This is probably one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Rupert turns on the piano light like an interrogation. Philip says he can't play with the light in his face. During the scene, his piano playing increasingly has more and more mistakes in the playing. I don't know if you guys caught that. I didn't catch it the first time. I caught it the second time.
Nice.
Rupert asks what's going on with this party and how strange it is. Rupert says he suspects something but doesn't want to say at this time. After all the questioning, Philip asks Rupert what he suspects. Rupert replies, I forgot. And then he immediately says, where's David? Oh, it's so good. What does Brandon know? Philip says he doesn't know. Rupert says that's the second time you haven't told the truth. When was the first? When you said you hadn't strangled a chicken. Piano playing immediately stops. Rupert calls him out. He's seen him strangle chickens. Philip loses control. The sound of the metronome drives him nuts as the piano goes off the rails further. Man, I get really verbose with my notes here. Minute 50, Mr. Kentley walks in with the gifted books from Brandon wrapped in the rope. Bold to give that to the father of the murdered man.
It was Philip with the robe
Yeah.
in the dressing room.
While dialogue is going on with the books, Philip is stared down by Rupert as the dialogue takes place off camera. This is it's locked in on Jimmy Stewart, this whole sequence. I said Stewart. Jimmy Stewart is the man. I really like this little sequence. You just watch his facial reactions. Philip confronts Brandon that the plan is falling apart. Rupert moves in, observes the uncomfortableness. There's something upsetting the both of you. Minute 52, Mrs. Wilson starts clearing the chest off after dinner. Camera focuses on her as the dialogue continues off camera about where David might be. Rupert is questioning. Excellent tension built because we know what is coming. As the chest is about to be opened after cleanup, Brandon swoops in and asks Mrs. Wilson to put the books up. In the morning, when she comes in to clean, she says she didn't know she was working the next day. Rupert is suspicious. My next note is Mrs. Atwater is a ridiculous character.
You always have one that you pick on.
Well, her voice is so funny too. Mrs. Kentley is worried about David, and this is, I think, recounted from the phone. Mrs. Kentley is worried about David, and the police should be contacted. This is told by Mrs. Atwater after getting on the phone. This is the point where all the guests depart, and I think this is where we enter the final little business. And it's weird. We're at minute 55, and the movie is basically approaching being over, which is awesome.
And what is the triggering event where suddenly Rupert knows something is more than just?
Oh, we're almost there. We're not quite there.
Okay.
Unless I'm misreading what you're saying. Minute 55, Kenneth talks to Janet. Glad we had that talk. Brandon is smarmy about Kenneth leaving with Janet, as he predicted at the start. The two don't appear to love this comment. Minute 56, Rupert is leaving and goes to put on his hat. Rare zoom-in shot. Also, not a lot of zoomies in this movie. It's all pretty static. I thought that was cool. Rare zoom-in shot as he takes the hat off his head. Camera cuts and pans left to reveal DK on the inside of the hat. David Kentley. Rupert knows.
Singing Donkey Kong.
DK.
Donkey King.
Dun, dun, dun. As everyone leaves, Brandon seems relieved. Lights up a dag. My dad's always called him Dag, so I had to put that in there once. Brandon is smug and thinks they got away with it. Philip is still worried and knows Rupert knew something. It's funny because the whole movie you think Philip is just like, calm down, Philip. It's going to be fine. Philip was always right to not be relaxed.
Or maybe he should have been more relaxed. It wouldn't have been so obvious that something wasn't right.
That's true. Minute 58, Philip asks Brandon, have you ever stopped for a moment and thought about how someone else feels? I'm not sentimental, if that's what you mean. Great encapsulation of their characters in these lines. I like that line a lot. Philip shares his concerns that they would get caught. Brandon is overly confident. Mrs. Wilson shows back up. They are startled, but it's just her. Brandon is now requesting his car to come around for them to leave. He's clearly starting to doubt himself. He opens the chest. We better draw the curtains. They are likely to move the body, is what I assume is about to happen. Then the doorbell rings. At 1 hour mark, Rupert returns. Philip freaks out and says he knows. Brandon is arrogant, thinks he can outwit Rupert. Brandon tries to talk Philip off the ledge. Brandon says no one is going to get in my way now, reminding Philip that he won't ruin this. Then at hour 103, Brandon is packing. Rupert arrives, pulls out his SIG case sneakily, puts it behind him. Another little zoomy shot that we don't see very often. Hides his SIG case behind the first editions. I unconsciously left it because I wanted to come back. Wait. Did he say that?
He's like, maybe I left it here because I wanted to come back.
Okay.
So
right.
I subconsciously left it here.
I put it in quotes, and I was like, that didn't... Okay.
No, he straight up said that.
Rupert asked for a big-ass drink to waste time. I thought that was hilarious. Also, Philip fixes it while Rupert backtracks where the SIG case might be. Rupert's drink is ready. Is it okay if I have it? Philip's clearly nervous. Brandon is overconfident, standing over Rupert. I'll be off. Ellipses. As soon as I finish my drink.
Yeah. I love the idea that like, oh yeah, your Rupert, your cigarette case is right by the chest and the books that we clearly saw was completely cleaned off, and then she put books on. It's like neither of them call him out on this. Like I would have been like, it'd have been a little bit of fun to see them turn the tables a little bit. It's like, yeah, what was that doing there, Rupert? I don't remember seeing it there when Mrs. whatever her name is was putting the Wilson was putting the books on there. What was going on there, buddy? And then I don't know.
Alternate ending also could be like, just don't answer the doorbell.
Right.
That's true. I straight up thought the alternate ending was when he. We haven't gotten to it yet, but when Rupert has the rope, I think Rupert was going to kill them. Like I thought he was going to straight up murder them.
Oh
So
yeah.
I was like, oh, it's like, it was a perfect murder, but not perfect enough.
Yeah.
Get them like that would be a Hitchcockian twist that I would not have seen coming. Spoilers, it doesn't happen.
No, I'm looking at my notes. I have so much written for the last like 13 minutes of the movie. I mean, there's just tons of dialogue, and a lot of it's really good. Rupert explains how strange the party is and how David didn't show. What happened? Was he kidnapped in broad daylight? Brandon says. When what happened? Brandon reaches to his pocket where the gun is. You can see Rupert see him reaching as the camera zooms in. One of the other rare times the camera zooms in. I know, blah, blah, blah. Janet thinks Brandon kidnapped David. Brandon questions his theory. Rupert says, if I wanted to get rid of David, I'd invite him here. No witnesses. Rupert lays out how he would get rid of David. Camera pans away to an empty hallway. There's another one. Do you remember this where it like pans out to the hallway and you see like the little sequence of events? There's no people in frame. It's very interesting. There's like no one
he's walking through all the different things that'd be going on. Yeah.
I'd take his hat. I'd make small talk. Actually, I should have you read this, Rumja. Offer a drink. Philip would probably play the piano. David's strong, and he would have to be taken out. He'd fall forward after being hit on the head. And then where would you put him? Camera pans to the trunk. And then we would put him in the car, carrying him out with Philip. But you would be seen. Where would you put the body until dark?
We have trunks.
And then hour 110, Philip shatters his glass after throwing it. Cat and mouse. I was like, that's not. I wouldn't have said that personally, but
he was stressed, man.
Yeah,
dude was stressed.
Brandon says in his condition, it doesn't seem like you came back for your SIG case unless you came back to look for something else. I wouldn't have suspected it if you didn't carry fear of discovery in your pocket. The gun. Discussion on how ridiculous the notion of the gun is and why Brandon had it as he throws it to the table. None of that made any sense. Oh, well, there's robbers up in the country by Mother's house. Okay. Sure, Brandon. Camera follows Rupert. Dialogue off camera as he reaches into the pocket and pulls out the rope. Lights start flashing outside. Did you guys notice this? The green and red lights that started shining through the windows. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that represents something or if it's just more to point out that it's now nighttime.
Ooh, I don't know. I thought it was more for like effect. Like Vertigo has like all these like crazy colors and stuff like that. So I don't know if it was just like his thing or his cinematographer DP's gimmick. I don't know. But I did notice. I was like, did something happen? Did they turn something on that made it do that? Yeah. Didn't look bad. Looked cool.
Philip loses it. He knows. Philip goes for the gun, basically admits. Philip implies that he wanted to get caught so someone would know how brilliant his plan was. Struggle for the gun. This is a very awkward struggle. I don't know if you guys noticed this.
Yes, it was
really fooling around with that gun for a long time.
I was thinking he was going to. I thought one of them was going to shoot Brandon. You know.
Yeah. Or like someone would get inadvertently shot in the struggle. If you really want to kill, you don't miss at that range. Brandon tries to dismiss Philip as drunk. He's becoming an alcoholic. Rupert says he's going to look at the chest. Brandon says, I hope you like what you see. Rupert sees it. I Couldn't believe it was true. Brandon tries to persuade, based on the conversation from earlier about the lives of insignificant people. What it is. He and I have lived what you and I have talked. You have to understand. And then hour 1:15, Brandon, until this very moment, this I wrote this whole, I like paused it over and over because I wrote down this whole dialogue because I thought it was so good. Brandon, until this moment, this world and the people in it have been dark and incomprehensible to me, and I've tried to clear my way with logic and superior intellect. You've thrown my words back in face, Brandon. You were right. Two, if nothing else, a man should stand by his words, but you've given words a meaning that I never dreamed of, and you've tried to twist them into a cold, logically excuse for your murder, and they never were, Brandon. You can't make them that. You must have been something deep. You must have had something deep inside you from the very start that let you do this very thing, but there's always been something deep inside me that would never let me do it. There's a little something else. And then Rupert fires his 3 shots out the window. You hear the scuttle, the people outside reacting to the shots. I actually commented that I thought the sound of the people yapping outside sounded like mixed kind of well. Like it sounded like street level dialogue. I was kind of impressed by that. Brandon pours some water.
The sad part is I've watched so much Law and Order, and like it's like 90s era New York, and I'm thinking to myself, they literally talk about like, oh yeah, some guy got rear-ended by a lady. He got out, raped her, and murdered her, and that's why he's on death row. And people saw and were clapping. I'm like, if it was like New York in the 90s and this happened, like bang, 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 it's like, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. Like, Brandon and Philip, get away with it.
Yep. Dude, I thought the same thing. It's like there's a joke like that in Last Action Hero where, like, I don't know if you see that movie, he's like, I just shot a man. It's like, shut up.
Yeah. I forgot about that part.
And I did it on purpose.
That's right.
I love that movie.
Did
we watch that for Bear Chimp? I thought we watched it for Bear Chimp.
I don't know, but it's probably eligible. Isn't that early 90s? 94 maybe?
It's 94.
Yeah. I'd watch it again. Anyway, sorry. But yes,
it'd be a great follow-up to this movie. That's from Rope to Last Action Hero.
The exact same thing I thought is like, a time when you could just lean out the window, fire a gun, and the cop showed up within 25 seconds. Like, yeah, they must be up there. Let's go, Charlie. Like,
and we knew exactly where it was. Oh, it was probably right up there, officer. 14th floor.
Very funny.
Last two. Brandon pours some water as Rupert sits down. Philip sits at the piano, looking down, starts playing the end, and then the only other thing, the credits are extremely short, probably because we got good credits at the beginning. But I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you caught this. All the credits refer to people's relationship to David. So it's like David's father, David's ex-girlfriend, David's...
I did not notice that.
Yeah, I thought that was really
I didn't see that. I'll have to look that up again. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like the framing of Philip on the piano and where Rupert and Brandon. I like the framing at that last shot. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. All right. Sorry for the verbose notes tonight.
No, man, it's good.
It's so dialogue heavy. You have to like. I feel like I had to write down like what they were saying, or else it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Next time I'll use AI. I'll be like, AI, write down the... I probably could have just pulled up the script and just deleted the things I didn't want to talk about.
I mean, we are at an hour 52 minutes.
Much longer than the movie.
Almost 40 minutes beyond the movie's runtime.
That's very Red Letter Media, right? Half in the bag. Like the Star Wars, the prequel.
Those are pretty...
Those are longer than the movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess they probably are, right?
100% longer.
Wow. I never thought about that because they used to break up into like 9 parts. Like when he originally posted that, it was like an 8 or 9 part thing, wasn't it? On YouTube. That was so long ago that they didn't allow for not long enough videos.
Yeah, they had 10-minute, like roughly 10-minute time.
Yep.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Canada just scored a goal in OT.
Canada did?
Yep.
So Canada won?
Yep.
Oh, Canada.
Wow.
Not even a real country anyway.
Yeah, we don't.
That's a quote from a movie. Not I didn't. That's not my original thought.
I don't know if you've seen that recently, but it is way better as an adult than I as a kid. I did not like the South Park movie as a kid at all. I didn't get it, but man, as an adult, is it hilarious?
Bigger, longer, uncut. That one.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen
Whenever,
it since it came out.
yeah, whenever that's eligible, oh man, is it laugh out loud funny. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say recommend this because we should probably jump off of here sometime. Oh God, it's 8:30, 11:30 for you guys. But yeah, I'm excited. Had anyone seen this? No. Wow, cool. All right, well this is a first then, and it's I really like it a lot. That it not only did I like the movie, but I like the fact that no one had seen it.
Or heard of it. I had never heard of it.
Yeah, right.
What was the other one we were debating between this and
Torn Curtain is what I was saying because that's like a well, quote unquote, more recent, but it's Paul Newman, and I had no idea Paul Newman was in a Hitchcock movie. But when I found out, when I went to $5, I picked it up.
I was like, in my head, I was like, that sounds like an Alfred Hitchcock movie, so I vote for that one.
Torn Curtain.
I've never heard of either one of them.
Oh, sure.
Like Torn Curtain sounds like an AI generated Alfred Hitchcock title.
Yeah, because it's
like
Psycho, right?
Luggage.
That's what happens in Psycho. They tear the curtain and then stab her. Spoilers.
Torn Curtain.
That's the way I died.
Your curtain.
Would you recommend it, Matt Jones?
Yeah. Especially if you like the premise of the movie where two people have murdered somebody and they bring people over and see if they can get away with it. Like if you like that, if that like interests you, it's really well made. It's well acted. As we talked about it, I was appreciating more and more of it. But it's just one of those things where it's like it's never going to kind of get me as involved in it because of the kind of the nature of it.
Sure.
That's okay.
No, I definitely say like the conversation has made me appreciate it more because what I could, and when you said like you really liked it a lot, Jeremy was like, I just don't understand like all the motives and stuff. But again, hearing this concept of, and I guess it was kind of explained in the movie, but we're going to kill someone and then invite people over to make it even more exciting. Because that's the other thing is like my immediate thought was, do you hate this person that you're trying to kill? No, you. And in the 46, I'm sure this was a really wild thought of like we're killing someone just for the thrill of it, and then we're gonna try to get caught or dance around getting caught. And that's gonna excite us even more. Which I guess again with all the sexual undertones that were kind of discussed as far as like maybe with this movie, like okay, pretty intensive for the 40s. So speaking about it with you guys like makes me appreciate it more. I can't wait to watch it again to see if I pick up on that more, I guess. And just see anything I missed because it seems like it's a deeper movie than I initially gave it credit for, despite liking everything about it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely recommend it. I've probably already said everything I wanted to say about it, but I will add one thing, and I know we've hit this many times, but 1 hour, 20 minutes. It's like if I'm going to recommend a movie, like, hey, Schindler's List is one of the most important movies of the 20th century. That's a big commit. It's a long movie. I still recommend it, but I'm sorry, but there's a certain amount of people that's gonna never. Sorry, it's too long, and it's in black and white. Are you kidding me? I mean, this movie's not even in black and white. So all I'm saying is, I think it's especially a fun movie because of how tight and fast paced it is, despite how like if you look at it on its surface, it kind of seems like a slow. It's not, you kind of can't play on your phone while you're watching it either. Like all the little bits of dialogue and details are like all lock into like you'll enjoy it if you missed Janet's stuff. Like you can probably get away with understanding the movie without Janet's context. But if you do pay attention to Janet's stuff, it gives you a little extra context. I just like how layered all the little pieces are because, again, the first time I watched it, I'm trying to take notes on this. I'm like, who the hell are all these people and why are they hanging out? So, yeah.
Why did they throw a party when they were planning a murder?
Right. Right. So I don't think it's, in my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily the best movie we've watched, but I think it is my favorite that in terms of like just having fun watching it. I really
Cool.
enjoyed it. It's the first time I've said I don't want to take notes. I just want to watch the movie, which I thought that was big for me.
And just to your point, Jeremy, an hour and 20 when you're asking somebody like, hey, you want to come watch a movie? An hour and 20 means you can watch it basically any day of the week. Like, people put their kids down. The kids are down by 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest, right? Usually. Like, you can crank out an hour and 20-minute movie from 9 o'clock and be in bed and asleep by 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
Good for work days.
a lot of like
Can't really do that on
HBO,
other things.
right? Like a lot of like HBO Max shows will have episodes that are almost this long. You know?
Exactly.
There's almost nothing that's under 2 hours long anymore. So, yeah,
crazy.
All right, cool, man. Well, I will press stop and record. Does anyone want to? Before we do that, does anyone want to pick a movie for next time? Do we have?
I think we have to pick something, right? For the
don't-
Texas listeners, so they know what to be.
Oh,
prepared
sure.
for.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Ah, jeez. All right.
You
They're
pick,
with us
Brenda.
at 2 hours.
I like the. I mean, we have picked a diverse collection of movies. This is.
I
very
think so.
different week
I
to
think
week.
so. This one was
Um,
definitely a curveball.
That's what we did. Fistful of Dollars. Then we did
Bull
Bull
Durham.
Durham. I wanted to say Tin Cup again. And then we did this.
Mm-hmm.
Rumja, what's the movie? I just think Rumja is all-time
know.
picker.
We're getting into March. I don't know. Don't make me all-time picker.
Yeah, it's true. It's the way it is now. It's recording. We can't go back on it.
That's right.
Oh, shit.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Sure.
I've got that on there, I think.
Do you really?
It
I
is.
think so.
It's on there. I mean, that's one of the greatest movies of all time.
I
So
wouldn't say no to it.
I've never seen Urban Cowboy.
I've never seen it either.
Is that John
And
Voight?
that's on there. It is
Travolta.
John Voight.
Oh, wait.
No,
That's-
John Voight.
Oh wait, no, I might be thinking of Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, no,
Urban
Urban Cowboy is John Travolta works at like a rodeo bar, I think.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. I was thinking of Midnight Cowboy. I've still never seen Urban Cowboy.
Oh, that was great. You said the movie Troy knew, but you and I were thinking of the same movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It
Right.
was not the right title.
I'm decidedly
I've never seen either of them.
interested in Urban Cowboy. No offense, Johnny, but
I think Urban Cowboy is like a fun John Travolta movie, and I think Midnight Cowboy is like deals with like really dark like drug trade stuff. I think.
yeah, that's why I wanted to see it.
But it's
I've
not
heard
on the
good things
$5
about
club.
it.
Not on
It's
the
not
dollar.
on there.
Midnight
Not on
Cowboy is not. No.
Not on there.
Urban
Oh,
Cowboy, I think, is darker than you're thinking, though. I thought it was like a cocaine underbelly movie. I thought again, I can't remember. I had the soundtrack once, and then because it's like got John Travolta on the cover in like a cowboy outfit, but then it's like not what you expect. I don't think.
Kind of like the other John Travolta movie we watched, where I was like, "Oh, it's a fun disco movie," but it's not at all.
Right.
They're so mean to that woman. I'll never forgive them.
Or like Roadhouse, where that's like a pretty violent movie, I think.
Roadhouse, is badass. Did
Yeah,
anyone
agreed.
watch the new Roadhouse with Jake
No.
Gyllenhaal?
No.
It's great, fantastic. I think they could just make the exact same movie over and over in a new location, and I'd watch it every time. Because that's basically the movie. It's Roadhouse, just new place. Sounds great.
Chinatown. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Ooh.
I haven't either. That's a pretty heavy movie, though, ain't it? Okay, well, it's going to be it's going to be a drastic. I mean, it's a murdery type movie, if I remember correctly.
No.
Best Picture
It is.
winner, I believe.
So
In time for the Oscars.
I don't remember Chinatown enough, but I have heard that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is basically like a retelling of Chinatown
Okay.
animated characters. So maybe we do Chinatown and then Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Either we could do them together, but that might be a little
No,
much.
I
we
think
just
you're
do
right.
them week after
Chinatown
next.
first would make more sense.
Okay.
Yes.
I've only seen it once, and I don't I don't really remember it very well.
I remember it
I get it.
depressing
That
me
was
for
bad.
whatever reason, but I have no idea what happened that made me depressed. I was like, that's a bummer, and now I don't feel good, and I wish I wouldn't have watched this movie. And it could have been because I was going to do something happy after, and I might watch it now because I like everyone in it. I like the concept. So, okay, Chinatown it is. Salute the duck, and then I'll stop this, and then we can kind of. All right. Damn it! I always have to exit full screen, chain of commands, and end recording.
I can't hold
Forget
it
it,
much
Jake. This is
longer.
Yeah.
Cloud Town.